pecuniary interest? None noted. This is zoning bylaw amendment for part lot 34, concession 7, East Wawanach Ward, Township of North Huron. Applicant is Schilder Farms Incorporated. Purpose of this meeting. The purpose of this meeting is for the Planning Advisory Committee of the Township of North Huron to consult with the public on the zoning amendment identified above. Requirement for the public meeting. This public meeting is required to be held pursuant to the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended, which requires that council shall hold at least one public meeting, and that all property owners within 120 meters or 400 feet of the area affected shall be given notice of the meeting by the clerk of the municipality. Pursuant to the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended, council shall forward to such boards, commissions, authorities, or other agencies as council considers may have an interest in the proposal sufficient information to enable them to understand it generally. Purpose of the zoning amendment. The purpose of the public meeting is to consider a proposed amendment to the North Huron zoning bylaw 82/2008 under section 34 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended. Denise Van Amersfoort, planner, Huron County Planning and Development Department, considered the application for a zoning bylaw amendment to be completed October 2nd, 2014. Denise isn't here. I think her report is fairly evident of everything. And I expected Luke to be here, the applicant, but he doesn't seem to be, so nobody's acting as agent for Luke tonight. Okay. Comments of others. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of North Huron before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of North Huron to the Ontario Municipal Board and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there is reasonable grounds to add the person or public body. Members of the public are asked to provide comment. Is there anybody who wants to make comment?
That you have to do. Because there will be a
there's the recommendation at the end that you're making the motion for the recommendation as printed.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Is there anything that council members want to, committee members want to comment on, or everybody understands it and it's clear? All those in favor? Carried. The zoning bylaw procedure following the public meeting. This is a public meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, not a council meeting. Thus, a decision of council may or may not be made this evening. If the bylaw is passed by council, the clerk is required to send notice of the passing of the bylaw to all persons and agencies notified of this public meeting. There is a 20-day objection period from the time notice of passing of the bylaw has been mailed by first-class post, wherein submissions, letters, or of objection or support in respect to the passing of the bylaw will be received by the clerk. If an objection is received, an appeal is lodged with the Ontario Municipal Board, and at that point, the township no longer has any control over the time factor involved. If council does not pass the bylaw, the applicant may appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board. If the bylaw is passed and no objections are received within the objection period, the clerk certifies that the bylaw is in force and of effect as of the date of its passing. Notice is forwarded to Huron County Planning and Development Department. Do I need to read this? Or do we already have it? Okay, I guess for the planning committee meeting, with no further business coming before it, we will ask for a motion of adjournment. Carried. Luke, council just passed the motion to send this to council for the bylaw to move forward. Calling the North Huron Council meeting to order. Okay. Motion required to accept the agenda.
So,
McGowan and not. All in favor? Carried. Declaration of funerary interest. None noted. Approval of the minutes of previous minutes of the public budget council meeting held October 20th as printed and circulated. McGowan and Vauden, all in favor? Carried. And for the regular council meeting held October 20th as printed and circulated. Okay.
page 2. There was an amendment that I moved. It wasn't for 30% tax, it was for 15%. 30% for the rich. Just a small error. So we notice page 2. Fine.
Okay, got it. Okay. McGowan, moving, and it's not. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving on to deputations, that Bev Blair, in a presentation over the Blythe Witches Walk. Are you helping Vicki or?
I'm here. She's more.
Okay, welcome, Bev.
Thank you. I actually have a few copies of my letter.
Okay.
Good evening, Reed Vinson and members of council. We would like to start by thanking the Township of North Huron for allowing us to have the use of the Blythe Witches Walk. It was very helpful to this small group of 4 or 5 individuals to be able to work a few weeks ahead of time to set up this event. We really appreciated the cooperation from the regional staff also. This year's Witches Walk was very well attended despite the weather. It was certainly a learning experience, as is everything that is done for the first time. I would like to give you guys a brief history of the Witches Walk. Mostly because I was reading something that the information wasn't correct. So this was started in 2002 by a small group, still about 4 or 5. I'm the original witch. For people that really enjoy Halloween, but also people that really love Blythe and the individuality of the town. The group can now consist of 4 or 5 people. The Blythe Lions are not a part of this group as was stated in the rule list. They stated that it was started in 2003 and that it was put on by local volunteers in the Lions Club. But it's not, it's just volunteers. Our exciting news this year is that we were featured in the Rural List as one of the top 6 terrific Halloween events to see in rural Ontario. We were also filmed this year by the production company Faux Pops. So as you can see, we are making a name for ourselves. This year, we were able to donate $100 to the food bank, $200 to the Blythe Lions, $200 to the Greenway Trail, and $500 to the 1419 committee. The Witches Walk Committee would like to ask Council for permission to use the shed again next year and possibly years to come. We would also like Council to consider allowing us to store some of the heavy props in a small corner of the shed. We've got 4 coffins that are fairly heavy. They're about 4 feet by 6 feet that we store small props in. So they're hard for us older people to move around, but if you could consider that, that would be wonderful. The remainder of our props are stored in a coal shed and others in the basement of Stitches with a Twist. Of course, the storage would be after next year's walk. We would also like to give Council a heads up that we have submitted a letter to the editor, to the Blythe Citizen, looking for more volunteers for next year's event, as all the work is a little overwhelming when we're always coming up with new ideas. So hopefully this brings people out to help, even if they don't like Halloween, because there's lots of little jobs to do. To wrap up, again, thank you so much for allowing us to use the shed behind the arena in Blythe. It was very well appreciated. I would like to point out that we had 4 smoke detectors in the building. We made sure the exit signs were well lit up. We made sure that the doors were easily opened at any given moment. We had 3 fire extinguishers. We had no candles, no flame. So we were very conscious about the safety issues of it at the same time. We had, the night of the walk, we had about 22 volunteers that were in the 2 sections of the shed. So when we first started the walk, we tried to have 20 people, like 10 in this building and 10 in this building. And then when it got lined up all the way around to the other side of the Blythe Lion shed, we had 15 and 15. So we still kept within right around the 50 people at any given moment. It was a learning experience, but it was very well appreciated. So thank you. Any questions?
Pat, thank you first.
Sure. First of all, congratulations, Bev. I saw the hard work your volunteers were doing sort of 2 nights before the big launch of the day. And I think the use of the shed worked out well. I would suggest that both Dave Sparling and I met before your event, and that as a provision of using the shed, that the fire prevention officer have an opportunity to see your plan ahead of time and tour it before it's open to the public. And you guys did a great job this year of making sure that safety was a priority, and we just want to make sure that continuity continues year after year.
Absolutely.
And also, as far as using the shed, I would have to check with Dave Cook if there's space, but I'm happy to get back to her on that personally once I have a chance to speak with Dave. I hadn't known that, but I will check in for you. Yeah, just to let council know that there is room in the shed, but I'm not sure how all that fits in once he gets the skate park in there and everything else.
Right. Even if it was in the dirt floor part, like we wouldn't care.
Okay.
It's just that they were very well built, but they're heavy.
Yeah, it would probably have to be on the dirt
Yeah,
floor side, but
absolutely.
we'll look into that, get back to you on that. But just to use the shed in future years. And I was just curious, because you had such great crowds, is there an opportunity for you guys to offer it more than one night? Or how are you gonna handle that?
We actually, part of the letter to the editor was the fact that, so that we can take a look at either having it two nights, having possibly the first night that's a little calmer, you know, because it would people who took their kids, and the second night for the bigger kids, you know, if we could get the volunteers. At this point in time, it seems that there's a lot of work, like, you know, putting batteries in and taking batteries out, and we carved 50 pumpkins and we're washing costumes, and, you know, it goes on and on and on and on, right? So it's for about a month and a half, it's like Halloween exploded at my house.
Okay, James.
How many people would you have gone through?
We didn't count, but we went longer than the deadline because there were still lineups. But I would say probably 1,500 to 2,000 people. 13 here. This is the 13th anniversary. And there's about 4 or 5 of us here. So it's, yeah.
The story, you have a small committed group and you get the job done.
Yeah.
It's only 300 each.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have, like, the night of the walk, like, there was the people that do show up and contribute, right? But the next day, like, we were still taking the stuff down, like, 2 weeks out. Yeah, it's something else. The production is going to be, it's going to be shown on Tucker Smith. Apparently, I don't have Tucker Smith television.
Channel 1.
Channel 1, did you see it?
No.
No. So it's supposed to be on like November the 1st sometime, but they're going to send me a link, so I'll be able to see this.
Good.
Yes, Bill.
Just a question, when you get your kids for volunteers, do they qualify for community service at school for that? So that's.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Perfect.
Did you have a question, Pauline?
Just want to know who the donations went to again.
Oh, the donations went to $100 to the food bank, $200 to the Blind Lions, $200 to the Greenway Trail, and $500 to the Blind Folk Humanity. The Blind Lions sold out of their food at their food booth. So that's good too.
Okay. There was a request made, and this is sort of a synopsis, that agreed to the request from Blythe Witches Walk to allow them to use the Blythe shed, and further that the fire inspection officer do an inspection prior to the opening of the annual Blythe Witches Walk. McGowan and Hallahan. All in favor? And thank you very much, because with a crowd like that, it was really enjoyed.
Perfect, and a lot of people are going to see it on the video, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. For the Reeves report, I will report that I attended the 5-year anniversary of the early childhood education ones from Huron County last Wednesday night, I believe it was. And I was very happy to be seated right adjacent to pretty well a full table right behind me from North Huron. Through the early years, the ones that work at the nursery, and I was very proud of the group as they received different certificates for years of work in that field. Moving forward, county council report. Next year's county council, there will be 8 of the current 16 back, so that it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience. 2 of the ones that are coming back have county council experience, so that I think it should be a good workable council. Moving on to the financial report. And motion for the bills and accounts. Campbell and Vauden. Is there any questions on the bill?
Page 8 of the report, there, the interior roof consultants. That check for $6,300. How does that break down? I know we use them on several occasions.
Yeah, so whenever we have a roof project that they're consulting on, we establish their fee in advance. And in most cases, it's a percentage of the total roof repair expense. So that one was for the large North Huron West Cascadia complex budget. So that was which that specific expense was to. Other times they're being hired to do a roof analysis, and that is a report they prepare for us, and that fee is established ahead of time as well. So they have a fee structure with us.
Okay, so this one was for the West Gas company.
Right.
Any other questions? Anybody?
Maybe one. I will go for page 7. For the Miller boiler plate and plaques for $1,728. Just, what was that for?
Pens.
Pens?
Pens for our bags.
For the giveaways when we do different trade shows or different.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
all in favor of the motion? Carried. Moving into the department reports. CAO clerk, Barb, you say anything or over the redevelopment?
Well, I guess this report does have my name on it, however, in working with Donna White and Don Nicholson, we've come up with this recommendation that's really not a recommendation, because we're leaving it up to council to make a decision on one of the 4 options that are available.
I guess the first thing that I should do on this, before we discuss it, well, we should have a motion to raise it from the table. Vauden and Callahan, all in favor? Carried. So that there's the report. There's somebody want to lead off as to what they think, and there's the 4 different ways of possibly handling it. Is there a counselor that has a recommendation? Brock?
I would start off by mentioning that I'm in favor of number 3, option number 3. Consider the upgrade to be a new service with credit back to the original capital contribution of less than $1,500 for the original capital contribution. The balance of $10,620.
Bill,
Can you just clarify option one for me, exactly what the cost would be to the applicant?
Lauren?
Yeah, so actually, like essentially, the capacity will remain unchanged, so there's only like 0.02 cubic meters difference, so it would be 100. And one of the things too, with whichever one you decide, is that we probably need to look at our policy right now for, like, say, a residential service that wants an upgrade from half-inch to a 3/4 inch, so that everybody's treated fairly.
Right?
So Don, how's that handled now if for residential?
For residential, there's the applicant pays full cost of whatever it takes to install the larger pipes.
Right.
But there is no capital contribution.
So there's no hookup charge or
No, because again, like they're using the same amount of water, but it's just through larger services.
Bernie?
Don, just curious about this executive summary here, because it looks like we're kind of doing the same thing here. It says it was a restaurant, and it's after Huron made a change in 2013 and designated it again as a restaurant gas station. Am I reading that right? Like, what change did they make in that?
The change in the zoning was to permit the convenience retail store portion of it.
So it has a change, which would, I think we all decided would be a new hookup, if I recall.
Question regarding that is when was that in 2013? When was the actual cross-border service agreement set as a part? So August of this year. So that zoning change actually precedes the date of our new zoning act. So it really should fall under the grandfather clause. You're trying to charge them as a new zoning change in something that just occurred in 2014. That zoning change goes back to 2015.
I might argue that one, saying that it doesn't end. They haven't had it. They are changing to a bigger pipe, even though they say that they're not going to use as much water.
Yeah, like that. Essentially, they will be using the same amount of water. Bigger pipes.
Yes,
It's not water.
even though they go to Tim Hortons, they'll be using a lot of water. I would argue that one just a bit, but again, we have to be consistent with what we're doing with Morris Turnberry, right? So which one of 1 to 4 falls closest, or is the one we would be doing with Morris Turnberry?
Donna, do you want to?
We haven't had a scenario yet, Bernie, that this is the test case, this is the first one. And it's not, because it's an upgrade rather than a new service, that's why staff is bringing it to you for clarification, because it's not clear on this very first one how it's handled, since it's not new. Like, it's, you can classify it as new or classify it as an upgrade. There's that's what we're looking for clarification from council on.
Brock?
My recollection is that our thinking was that if it required a rezoning, that was the trigger that moved it into the.
Bernie?
So then, after all said and done, what Brock is suggesting that would be I would think would be the proper way to go, because you're giving them the rebate on the 1,500, and number 3, you're considering it as an upgrade.
But I'm open to options on this, because this is a very costly.
Right.
This is going back to what Don said.
The only thing different here is just the zoning change. That's all we're talking here, because if we go to a resident and they have to put a bigger line in, and they want a bigger line in, there's no more, they pay for it, and that's it. And
That's correct. Yeah, they would pay the entire.
the only thing here is, that I can see is the zoning change.
Which is based on the change of a new business, it's a new business activity.
But this water's gonna be metered. If you
Yes.
do use more water, you're paying more, right? Yeah.
Well, yes, in the application too, since they have requested the 1.77, right in the application, it states that if their annual average goes over that they're required to come up with more of a capital charge to reflect the amount of water they're actually using in both the water and the sewer.
And that I'll maybe comment on it. In the number one, the real reason that they have to have bigger pipes is the code has changed. And for a new building, you have to meet the current code. Correct me if I'm wrong? And that is the big reason for that. I think whether we ask for the capital contribution in lieu of taxes, I think we have a motion that would take care of that if we want money in lieu of capital in lieu of taxes. And muddy that up. Well, money,
Different issue.
Yeah.
it's a,
Yeah.
that those issues can be separated. Archie, have you?
I was just gonna say that I think that there's areas of the policy where we didn't contemplate that there would be a bit of a quagmire in or gray area, in particular the Granby, because it wasn't far enough along that we were even discussing. I think that this council needs to be cognizant that there's a new council when we take sworn in next month. We don't want to hold the Granby up, but this scenario could be deemed similar to the Morris Turnberry School project, where the connection is at the lot line as well. And they, of course, argued very fervently that that should be considered as a previous connection policy. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. Council took a position on that they felt it was a new connection. But I think that it would be prudent for this council to pick one of the options to get the Grandview policy moving, or project to be moving ahead. And then I think that the new council should sit down and contemplate various scenarios that may come up and adopt those into the policy itself. So, your residential situations, you know how you will deal with those. So if it's an upgrade, it's an upgrade. The owner pays for the upgrade service, and that's it. For commercial situations, I think that the policy should lay out the procedure that was used to determine how the policy will be applied. So in a scenario where you've got somebody that's been connected, like the Grand, who did not contemplate, and they are just wishing an upgrade to meet the current building standards, this is how council will deal with that issue. We were very focused on the area of strictly black and white new connections, and did not maybe spend as much time as we could have, or didn't think about the options where current connections would come back to us and say, we need an upgrade, and how are we going to deal with that? So I think it warrants a little bit more discussion, but I think that needs to take place with the new council. And I think we need to choose one of these options and determine how it applies. And there was some misunderstanding, I think, the last council meeting about the timing of the zoning change. And I do wonder if the zoning change took place prior to the policy being adopted, if it isn't a situation where it should be grandfathered, as Councilor Mott said, and that one of these options should be chosen. I'm not suggesting which option is the correct route to go. But I'm saying in terms of the 30%, obviously the policy was adopted after the zoning change, if that is the case. And I don't I don't think we can reach back in time. We've agreed that we weren't going to do that. So, just some food for thought.
Brock,
I just have one very minor point that I want to derail the discussion, but in the first line, after and further that, the Council of the Township of North Huron agreed to proceed with the connection for water and sewer. No, it's covering both. Cover them.
Is it sewer or something?
Yeah, it's, yeah, both of those. Confirm, yes, it is water and sewer line. The water line's going to be increased from a 1-inch service to a 2-inch service, and the sewer will be increased from a 5-inch to a 6-inch.
Just a question then through you to Dawn. Do I understand from this report then, under option 4, that a capital, and I think you alluded to this last meeting, but I want to be clear, that a capital contribution charge has already been made from this property for that service
Yes,
at one time?
yes, back when the original request went in for servicing, they had paid $1,500 for the capital portion of it, and then they had to install the entire cost of that.
Bill,
I'm just gonna say, I think 1 and 4 are pretty much the same. When you're talking $120, but I really think that in this case, they're really upgrading simply to meet a building code requirement. It's not by choice. The capital contribution was already made in the original hookup by the Watsons. And they're paying the 100% of the cost anyway. I really don't see any justification. And the zoning change was done in 2013, so it already preceded the cross-border service agreement that was put forward. So you grandfathered that in and said there really is no zoning change taking place here. Their application has already taken place a year ago. That we should just drop down to number 4. And, yeah. So I'll make a motion to adopt number 4. And proceed.
do I have a seconder for that motion? Discussion on it?
Sort of related emotions for you again to Dawn. How would this type of scenario, Dawn, been dealt with under the old policy? Because obviously some of this took place prior, so we were under our old cross-border servicing arrangements.
To be honest, I've never really dealt with a commercial upgrade. We've done residential upgrades from 1/2-inch to 3/4-inch water services, and and just replacing generally 4-inch services with new services. So, in those cases, there was the applicant paid for the construction cost, the entire construction costs of that, and there's no capital contribution made for the capital.
Right.
But if we do go with 4, that means they are or are not paying for the upgrades.
Oh, yeah.
They're paying all the shop, right?
Consider the
They will
upgrade
pay all the
to require
upgrades.
no connection charge. Okay.
Yeah, that's just the
So that's the
connection,
part.
not the construction portion of it. Yeah, they're paying 100% of the construction portion.
Further thoughts or? Is everybody ready to vote on the motion? All those in favor? Carried. And do we want to look at a motion towards a payment in lieu, or do we want to leave that to the new council?
Worship, I just wondered, like, there'll have to be a new agreement entered into
Yes.
with Century Huron for this particular property. I would suggest that an agreement needs to get developed. And I don't know whether we have, I don't think we've done any work unless the committee, I know you were on the committee and Councillor Bailey, but I don't know what work was done on putting together a template agreement that encompassed the 30% as well as the other, like the tilt and the capital charge and those things.
There was discussion on completely new, but
And where did Gary leave that?
the discussion stage.
So obviously that needs to be dealt with.
That it's, I think that with this one, when some of the dates as they were, I think that we probably have to just move on and have the new council put together the terms of reference for any further.
Not to misunderstand, I don't believe that the 30% applies because it was before the
Predated,
policy. Yes, I'm just saying that the council, the new council, will have to develop a proper agreement to encompass all those things on the go forward, so that's being dealt with.
Mhm. Yep. All right.
So do you need a motion then for a meeting with councils of the Township of North Huron and the municipality of Central Huron to be planned after December 1st?
What we really need is that in either point 2 or 3, point 2 is provide approval to sign the developer application, or 3, have the developer application put on hold until after December 1st. I think we have to pick one of them and do a motion on it. We either let the developer go ahead or say that we can't do it until.
Considering the fact that having got the old building tore down, I think probably they could wait.
It's got it. It's all-
Yeah,
it's
but I mean,
December.
December 1st is 2 weeks, 3 weeks away,
Oh, I should.
12 weeks away.
I just like to say, we've already sort of grandfathered back the first part of this, so I think that, in my opinion, we should just go ahead and provide the approval, number 2, and let them get on with it, because this is an older process. So the only thing we're doing is just saying, yeah, we've already accepted grandfathering back the capital contributions, so we should do the same thing here with regard to the 30%. It is and it isn't a new development. It's a rebuild, but it's a development predated.
You're making the motion.
I'll make the motion. We go with number 2.
For provide approval to sign the developer application.
Correct.
You're seconding, James? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay, for the zoning bylaw amendment, application for part lot 34, concession 7, East Wallenosh. And this is for having it done by bylaw.
For second, third,
No,
vote even if for second, third.
This is,
The recommendation.
this is the recommendation to prepare a bylaw.
Bylaws later in the meeting.
Okay, you're moving the motion to prepare and not seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to 6.4.3, Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk. The staff report. Administration, Kathy.
It's all there unless somebody has any questions.
Okay, moving to 6.4.4, Economic Development. Possible renaming of the Wigan Public Library. Any questions? Connie, if you're ready, if there's questions?
Sure.
Archie?
Just one, I mean, I'm be supportive of the idea, absolutely, of renaming the Wayne Public Library after Alice Monroe. But I do wonder how much public support has been garnered for that option. I suspect it's fairly good considering.
This has been a request from the Friends of the Library, so I don't know if they have done any kind of public consultation at all, to be quite honest. I know it's come from that board.
I'll move it.
Well, I'll second it. So we can just-
Okay, thank you.
Comment?
Comment, Rob?
I think it must make clear that it's the Alice Monroe Public Library. I think that needs to be in there because there are academic libraries that are set up on similar
Yeah.
occasions. And this must be continued as a public library.
Public Library. Okay. Noted.
I was
Bill?
just going to ask if Councillor Gowan felt that maybe there should be some public discussion with regard to this.
I've heard enough public support around the community for other things that we're trying to be planned to do in light of her win at the Nobel Prize. And I don't see, I mean, there's a widespread range of support. Actually, for the other option that the community was trying to put together, it was actually Alice herself that chose that she would rather that not go forward. She obviously feels that the renaming the library is a little bit more fitting to what she would be accepting of. So I think that makes sense to me. And there's a lot of widespread support across the community for her and for her win. And I think this is a nice way to recognize her, an appropriate way.
Yeah, just that was because of you being one of them, for you to have a better sense. But I think that we should go make sure that this is amended, as Brock said, make sure it's
Absolutely.
okay. By the way, just so you know, I watched the French president's speech this morning. He mentioned Alice Monroe in the speech. Yes, he went on about various Canadian things, and when he was talking about the Cannes Film Festival wins that a couple of Canadian documentaries, and then he mentioned the Alice Monroe win prize. It was interesting.
All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, moving to 6.4.5, utility department, the test well RFP. We need a motion to waive the rules of procedure to allow the tenders to be submitted electronically to the engineer due to time constraints and distance.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Bill on? Seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. 6.5, 6.4.6, Director of Recreation and Facilities, Recreation and Facilities Department. Is there any questions for Pat? Jeremy?
I'd just like to comment and say that that's come a long ways. It's good to see everything's going in the right direction. Except for one little glitch there, I'm sure you'll take care of it.
There's no glitch.
Oh, yes.
It's just challenges and opportunities.
Challenges and opportunities. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's a very good report. Thank you.
Well, I just have a question, and it's just regarding the extension of the William Trail to MRES.
Maitland River Elementary School. So it used to end at Corner.
Not MRSA, MREA.
It picks up
Yeah,
again
yeah,
now and goes all the way to the school, so kids can use the trail to walk to school.
Okay.
It actually goes beyond the school, and then they can also use the trail to link them to all of the other sports fields and ecological park and river front in Wingham.
I understand. I'm just curious. I didn't know what MRES was. So
Sorry about
acronyms
that.
are wonderful, but for those of us who live in the southern part of the country.
Okay, very good. Nothing in unfinished business? Okay, moving to new business. Royal Canadian Legion Branch 180, Wyndham. Okay, seconded by Knott. All in favor? Carried. And Wingham Lions Club, asking for permission for Santa Claus Parade. Ray is moving and Bernie is seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving forward, council information. Okay, Rod, you want to bring something forward?
Yes, this is for council.
Council information, the
Okay, no.
9.1 to 9.5.
Sorry.
Your Worship,
Yes.
question through you to the Director of Recreation. With regards to item 9.5, how much?
Sorry, I haven't got.
9.5?
Yeah, sure.
Kiesel.
Yeah, that's.
Was that you?
That's true.
That would be from the
Which one?
gravel pit in East
Oh,
Walnut.
I apologize. I thought it was the airport.
No,
My apologies.
gravel.
How much?
Well, it
Same
started in 13 and they just finished in 2014 and it was 24,000.
Okay, good. And just a supplementary, if I may, when is the airport lot due then again?
It's targeted for 2016, so we'll assess in 2015 to see if we're ready.
Super, thank you.
Is there any points that councilors want to bring forward? If none of them are being singled out, that we receive, read, and file. We got one. And Campbell. All in favor? Okay, correspondence. Is motion required?
No, we just did that one.
Committee reports, there's North Huron Police Services Board, anything extra to add or any questions?
September the 16th meeting minutes are within your packages. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. We did have our new advisor join our meeting, and Mr. Dave Preston, and he's a very nice gentleman, and he will be assisting us throughout the spring inspection that will be taking place. I think that's all we know.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't look like there's any questions. Moving forward, bylaws. Bylaw number 78, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement with the municipality of Central Huron for fire protection services.
Second, third.
Campbell and Bawden. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And bylaw 79, 2014, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 82, 2008, as amended, being the zoning bylaw for the corporation of the Township of North Huron, as it applies to part lot 34, concession 7, East Wawanosh, Township of North Huron. We have a motion, right? First, second, and third. Seconder, Campbell. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, council reports and inquiries. Brock, did you
Yes, I have three
There you go.
inquiries. I had a recent lengthy discussion with a Wingham resident, and I heard a very, very disturbing report on the treatment that this person said she received at our office. She was paying taxes. She said that she will never come into our building again for any business. She will find another way of doing it. Now, I realize I only heard one part of the story, but it was very alarming. If anything that she said were true, I would be very concerned about the way people are treated under certain circumstances. So I just raise this as a point of that needs to be looked into at any time to make sure that our customer relations are being done properly and so on. And so I just leave it there for advice. I don't have the lady's name, but we had a long conversation about this, and it was a very disturbing story. But again, I only heard one side of it. Second point is that we've talked a number of times about the need for benches around the village of Blythe, and they keep disappearing. And we lost another one in front of the parking lot, and I'm curious as to why it has disappeared. And I'm almost afraid to bring up the topic again, because every time I bring it up, we lose another bench. But I think it's important for walkability in the village that we have lots of bench places, and I'm disturbed about the fact that they do keep disappearing. And I'm kind of curious to find out, it seems that the bench has been replaced by a bicycle rack. And I wonder how that decision was made. So I'll leave that with the property owner.
okay?
Can help answer a little bit of that, because I had the discussion with Kelly before. Those benches, those concrete benches, is that the one you're referring to? The concrete ends were cracking. If you wish, I'll show you pictures. I have pictures of the ones, because they had to take them to the dump by the cemetery.
Yeah.
They're dumped out there, and they are broken, and they were not safe. So
The last time we discussed this, we did think about replacing them like a policy.
yeah, I agree with you though. We should look into something, perhaps through the BIA on Wednesday. We'll bring it up and see if that's a project that
Okay.
can be adopted.
Pat?
I was just going to mention that there is another group in Blythe that have done some fundraising for a new bench, and they've been working with our staff, Kelly's and my staff, to try and find the right location and then pick a style. And as we're all aware, Blythe has a streetscape plan, and I think that once we have the finalized Memorial Hall renovation plan, that will assist us to sort of select the style of bench for the downtown of Blythe. I think there are some benches there, and I don't want to call it a mismatch, but they're different styles, and so for this group to select what they want to do and where they want to put one, they're sort of turning to us saying, what bench should we put up? And our challenge is, well, we're not sure what style goes with the streetscape. And so we're kind of in that in-between phase right now. But there is
We're
one.
pretty well settled on the invisible style.
Well, that's fine. I guess that's one option, but I know that there is a desire to have more, and in that streetscape plan calls for that. So I would strongly recommend if any group is looking at it, they pull up that plan, that they revisit it, and that they perhaps wait for some of the Memorial Hall courtyard plans and see what sort of is the flavor there, and use that to sort of launch sort of any future purchases to have a continuity down the street. Just
Great, well, thanks, so long as we're thinking about these things.
Yep, well, I just, if you're bringing it up to the Blythe BIA, I just thought that would be a helpful piece of information to take to.
Bill?
For your honor, and what group of people is it? It's doing fundraising for the bench.
I'm trying to remember her name and I've drawn a blank, but it is a group that had a school reunion. And I think it was the East Wabanach School Reunion Group did some fundraising, and so they have this pot of money, and that's what they want to do is put a bench in Blythe on the main street and put a little plaque on it to commemorate that school reunion group. So that's, but honestly, I've drawn a blank.
Cheryl Cronin would be your contact.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
When someone said it, I would remember the name. Yeah. So she's been talking to both Dave Cook and Rob Copeland and myself.
Good. Thank you very much. I have one more.
Go ahead, Brock.
We recently had a controversy about lowering the flag to half staff during that tragic event in Ottawa and Quebec. And so we had a telephone survey to decide to lower the flag and realize that we don't have a policy on this apparently.
Actually, we do.
We do have a policy.
This was viewed as special circumstances that wasn't looked at in the policy, and that council does have the opportunity in special circumstances to override the written policy.
Right. So I also had another call from a Blythe resident asking why the Blythe flags were not lowered to half staff. There were two of them, one in front of Memorial Hall and one at the entrance of the south entrance of the building. So they should be consistently following the policy.
Okay,
That's all.
that's something for us to note. Archie?
Just to go back to Councillor Bob's first point, and I think it's always important as we get approached by ratepayers with any concerns to bring those forward. But I think it's equally important to gather as much information as possible so that the administrator, whether it's Barb or a new clerk administrator, has an opportunity to investigate those allegations, concerns from both sides, and in order to facilitate improvement if it should be needed. I just, I encourage all councillors, old and new, that when you get approached, make sure you get the name of the person, a lot of detail, a phone number where they can be reached. Often what I've done is actually put the clerk in touch one-on-one with the person making the complaint so they can hear the concern firsthand, because things can get changed when they go second and third hand, so that the chief administrative officer can determine whether there's validity to the concern, and so they can deal with it appropriately. And and sometimes there can be a miscommunication about the events too. So just to be cautious and make sure you do a very thorough investigation about the facts and get them to the right people on staff so they can deal with it.
I agree with that. In this particular case, the lady did not want her name used. She didn't. We've heard this before.
Yes, we have.
But anyway, provide the information I could.
And that's fair. I know some ratepayers will maybe perhaps feel that way. I often have said to the ratepayer, look, my clerk really needs to hear this information firsthand from you. Your name won't go anywhere else, but they need to hear it firsthand, as I think that's important. So, I mean, everybody just needs to do their best to encourage that. I mean, at the end of the day, the ratepayer will either decide that they're willing to share that or not. But it's very difficult to investigate something if people allow you to share their name. So, with at least the one appropriate person. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Good point. Okay, Bill.
This actually goes back to when I was just a private ratepayer, but a year ago, through yourself, I brought this up to Kelly's attention when they went and named to him and asked him to pass it on to the appropriate party. I believe he passed it on to Pat. This is with regard to the bridge, which belongs to the Snowmobile Trail Association in Blythe, the Greenway Trail. And it's in severe need of repair. It needs at least 3 ties replaced in it. I know it belongs to the Snowmobile Association, but was anything ever done? Did you ever contact them?
Trying to remember back, because that was a while ago, I'd have to check my
It
notes.
was a year ago.
Yeah, and I would have to honestly get back to you I know that we reached out to the Snowmobile Club, but I honestly don't remember the outcome of that conversation.
Because that is a severe hazard when we get a light snow. And in the spring when it begins to melt, because there are 2 substantial holes in the timbers, and one of them is completely rotted out. So there's potential for someone to trip and break an ankle or worse. So they've got to be repaired, and I don't think we can afford to go another year without fixing them. So I mean,
Yeah, I guess just to fill everyone in, it's a bit of I don't want to call it a jurisdictional challenge, but it's not actually the Greenway Trail. It's the bridge above, and people go up there and then continue along their way. And I think we're actually even in Morris Turnberry once we're still in Blythe on that side. Anyways, so it's been sort of should we, shouldn't we, whose bridge is this to fix? And so that's sort of been the challenge. It's a snowmobile trail. It is not part of the Greenway Trail.
So the ownership, if I understand correctly, is the Snowmobile Association or the Trail Committee or?
No, Snowmobile Association owns and is responsible for the bridge.
So I make a motion to send a letter to the Snowmobile Association pointing out to them the status of that bridge and requesting that, making it known that we have concerns about the upkeep of that bridge and potential liability to the Snowmobile Association, and ask that they look into it and repair it accordingly.
Seconded?
Yes, definitely.
Anything further on that motion? All in favor? Carried. Anything else from council? One thing that I didn't mention in my earlier remarks is that the Wayne Salvation Army will be opening its kennel campaign at 1 p.m. November 14th, just as an information point for council and others. Okay, moving to the CAO's report.
Remembrance Day is coming up next week, and the Legion services at Blythe and Wingham will be held. And I am looking for one counselor, Reeve counselor, to lay the wreath in Wingham, and one Reeve or counselor to lay the wreath in Blythe.
I have already replied to the one in Legion that I would be there to do that.
Okay.
Ray?
I can.
I will be there anyway, but I've done it a number of times, so it's maybe your turn, Bill.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that's Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be there?
I'll be there anyway. So.
Thank you.
I'll do the trash. I do the trash.
Okay, yep. Okay.
I will have a report for council on the 17th of November as it refers to the election and the vote by mail, and how successful we were with the voter turnout. The other things that we addressed in that, any concerns and suggestions that I may have for the 2018 election.
Okay. That's it. Okay, moving to public gallery questions or comments on tonight's meeting. Okay.
Just check.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we will have an in-camera for the security of the property of the municipality or local board. So I will need a motion to go in camera. And also personnel matters. Wadden and Campbell, all in favor? Carried.